Hello, and welcome to this video tutorial, where we will create a data-bound line chart using MindFusion charting and spreadsheet libraries for WinForms. We use a spreadsheet with data from which we select cell ranges to serve as data for the X and Y values of the line series. We select the desired cells and right-click to show a context menu that lets us choose how the data from the selected cells should be used. After both lists with data are set, a line series is automatically created. You can also select a cell to serve as a legend label for the new series. We start by creating a new Windows Forms app in Visual Studio. In the Visual Studio toolbox, you can see all components from the MindFusion WinForms pack. We have downloaded the pack from the MindFusion website. We drag and drop a worksheet view. This is the control that renders a single grid with data. For our chart, we do not need a workbook, just a data grid. Then we drop a line chart control. Though we will not render a workbook, we need to have one so we can create a sheet with data. Let's change the anchor property of our controls to make them expand when the size of the containing form changes. Let's now add a spreadsheet to our workbook and make it show in the worksheet view. We call the add method of the workbook to get a new sheet added to it. Then we assign this sheet to the worksheet property of the view. Now if we run the application, we will be able to edit the data sheet. Of course, when we right-click on a cell, no menu is shown. Let's change that. The context menu is an instance of the .NET Context Menu Strip class. We add 3 items to the main menu: set as X data, set as Y data, and set as series title. We must handle the click event on all of the items. We will do the event handling code later. We will render this context menu on right mouse click on the datasheet. So, we need to handle the cell click event of the spreadsheet. In the event handler, we use the cell mouse event args object of the spreadsheet library to get information which mouse button was pressed and how many times. We render the context menu only by single mouse click with the right mouse button. We check if the clicked cell is in the current selection of the spreadsheet. If it is not, we set the active cell and selection of the datasheet to the clicked cell. Finally, we show the context menu at the clicked location relative to the worksheet view control. Let's test how this works. We right-click a single cell, the menu renders. We make a multiple selection and click on a cell outside the selection. The clicked cell becomes selected and the context menu renders there. The previously selected cell range is deselected. When we select multiple cells and right-click on them, the context menu shows and the selection stays. It's time to create our data-bound series class. This will be a custom class that reads the data from the selected cells. We add a new class to the solution and call it SPSeries, short for Spreadsheet Series. We will use two lists with data values, one for the X data and other for Y data. However, we will need to read that data from the selected cells in the datasheet. We open the online documentation of the WinForms spreadsheet library and check the selection class. We see among its members range. It is of type cell range, and we can extract the selected data values from the selected cells. So we add two cell range instances as parameters to the constructor of our SP series. We will extract the data from the cell range in a separate method called Parse Values. In it, we get a list of the cells in the cell range, and then we try to parse the data in each cell as a double value. If we succeed, we add the number to a list. Let's call Parse Values with the two cell range instances we receive in the constructor and read the numbers they contain. Now, we will implement an important method called getData from the series interface. Let's look at the members of the series interface in the online documentation. Here, we see the getValue and getLabel methods that we will implement. The getValue method takes two arguments. One is the index of the element, and the other is the dimension. The dimensions are 3, x, y, and z. Since we are building a line chart, we will be asked for the two data arrays, for x and for y. So, if we are asked for the first dimension, we return the corresponding data from the x data list. Otherwise, we return the value at the requested index from the y data list. Next, we will implement the getLabel method. The labels that are supported by a series instance are specified with the supported labels property. This property returns a combination of members from the label kinds enumeration. You see that they include all possible types of labels a chart can have. In our case, we will render only tooltips. So, in the supported labels property override, we return only label kinds tooltips and implement the getLabel method accordingly. In it, we return a string that quotes the x and y values of the point with the provided index. Let's finish implementing the SP series. We look at the interface, and we see we need to implement a few more methods and properties. We have isSorted and isEmphasized, which return false for our series. There is the size property, which states the length of the data in this series. We return here the length of the smaller list among X data and Y data. This guarantees that even if the series is provided with different in size data lists, all points that are rendered will have their X and Y value set. Then we have the dimensions property, which returns 2 for series with X and Y data. Finally, the title property. A series' title is used as a label in the legend. Now that we have the series, let's use it. In the main form class, we add two cell range variables, X selection and Y selection. We will use them to create SP series instances. Initially, we set them to null. Then we add a method called addSeries. In it, we check if both X and Y selection objects are initialized. If yes, we create a new series and reset the selection variables to null. If everything is done properly, we should be able to add a series to our line chart now. Let's try it. We type a column with 3 values and then 3 more. We set the first column as X data and the second one as Y data. Here's our series. We need to adjust the range of our axes, but we will do this later. We will add now the code that sets the contents of a cell as title to the series, and it appears as an item in the legend. We add the title after the series is created, so we need to get it from the series collection of the chart. Then we get the data of the first cell in the selection and assign it as a title to the series. When we do it this way, we need to tell the chart to repaint itself. We call invalidate on the chart and invalidate layout on the legend renderer of the chart. Now if we run the chart, we should be able to add a title to our series and see it in the legend. Yes, we have now the series title in the legend, and it's time to think about the looks of our application. We want to add this nice feature. When a series is added, we will use its stroke to outline the cells in the spreadsheet that were used as data for the series. We initialize a list with 5 lovely colors, and create a list with 5 solid brushes that use these colors. The properties that set the appearance of the chart are mostly part of the theme class. Each chart exposes a theme property through which we can customize many elements of the chart. We will use the Common Series Fills and Common Series Strokes properties to specify the brushes and strokes for the series. The chart library paints each series with the subsequent stroke/fill from these lists. We assign to them both the brushes collection we've created. Then we add a new method called color selection. In it, we get the list with the selected cells for X data of the chart series. We paint the top border of the first cell and the bottom border of the last cell with the same color as the series. We paint the left and right borders of all cells in the selection in the same color. We repeat the same border coloring for the cells in the Y selection. We now call the color selection method after the series is created. Let's check how it works. We create a series, and here is the border. another series, and it gets outlined with the color of the new series. The last thing that we will do is to add some styling to the chart. We use the fields of the y-axis and x-axis properties to specify the scale of the axes, the min and max value, the interval. We also add titles to both axes. We set show scatter to true and add a title with a bottom margin to the chart. Finally, we use the grid appearance properties of theme to add and customize a grid for the line chart. Let's look at the result. Here's the chart with the grid. We add a series. The series appears, and the cells are colored with the series stroke. Everything works as it should. And that's the end of this video tutorial. You can download the source code of the sample with the MindFusion libraries used from the link in the video description. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your interest in MindFusion developer tools.